By now you've gotten through the creation of your body text and how that body text relates to the edges of the page and and your margins and the overall density. And you're probably looking at something that looks like this. A text that with slightly different, you probably started out on a page in InDesign with the default margins, and you probably ended up somewhere where you've changed the text, but you've not changed the margins. And since the grid is supposed to be a tool for designing, it matters that the grid is not where uh, your actual decisions are. The grid does not reflect the decisions. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about how to get that grid right with your margins, how to modify that copy and do different versions of that grid so you have more options. And we'll also talk about the creation of character level style sheets. So first, it's important to start with a facing page document. One that is set up that's InDesign's default. So most people have a facing page document, but if you do not, you can either convert it to a facing page document. We could say document setup, and we can make it a facing page by checking this box. But if you do that, and I'm not going to do that in this case, you still will only have a single page template up at the top. So it's important to say, after you do that, say new master. And that when you make a new master, it'll be a 2-page template. Or you could just you cut, copy, and paste this document into a second page, which I already did here. But let's delete that. And we could say, go back to this page, and I could say copy, Command C. And then I could say edit, paste in place. And it will put it right where it was on the other page, assuming you're starting with pages that are the exact same size. And since most of you are working on 8.5 by 11, that will work. So the first thing to know is that we are going to adjust these margins so that they reflect the actual size of my text area, so that when I go on to create documents, everything will be correct. And the other thing I should say about facing page documents, the other big difference is that they are a mirror image. So if we look at this margin, what I will have is a slightly larger margin on the outside and a slightly larger margin on the top as well. Generally, it is believed that a page, you get more bang for your buck if you spend a little bit of your white space at the outside and the top of your page. That's where readers find it most comforting. So you can change your margins on a page, but what you want to do in this case is change your margins on every page, because when you pull down your master, and you'll see that these all have a little bit of an A on them to reflect the fact that they are the A master, you want that to bring those decisions with you. So I am going to start by selecting my A master, and I want to make sure I have both of them. And then I'm going to go to Layout, Margins and Columns. And then I could just start to click to bring them down. But first, one step in a lot of things that I'll be demonstrating in InDesign and have demonstrated so far, by default, these are locked to change altogether. So if I change one of them, they all change together. And that's not what I want, because they are not all going to be the same. So I'm going to unclick that, and I'm going to bring my margin down to the box so it lines up. Then I'm going to do my bottom. Looks pretty good. I don't think I need to do anything about that. My inside actually got a little bit smaller. Yeah, that one's good. And then my outside got a bit bigger. So these are, in this case, fairly arbitrary decisions, but just the decisions I made for this. And because my A master was selected, everything changed the same. And this is now a symmetrical spread. When I add content to this page, it will work as a mirror image to that one. We can just click and it will fill that page, and these will be symmetrical. A little bit of pre-existing formatting I forgot to take care of. And that will work like there, and you can maneuver around this document as was demonstrated on the first class movie, just like with the document I did. Now, so this is now ready to be a template, but there are a couple things I want to do first. One, I want to have some variety, build a few extra tools into this, and I also want to give myself a page number. So I think I'm going to zoom down to the bottom here, and I clicked on my master page because anything I put on the master page will be everywhere that I put it after this. So what I'm going to do is just draw out a text box, text frame, and I am going to align it, the frame, with the top and bottom, and I'm going to go to Object, Text Frame Options, and these are worth exploring sometimes. You might want to take a look at these later, but right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to center the text in the box, and that's where you put your folio is up to you. That's where I tend to think a folio looks best. And I think I'm just going to start with my text style, make sure that my text isn't too big, but let's get rid of that indent. And I'll just say my magazine, June 2021. And I think I'm going to put this, in my case, all in caps. So I'm just gonna click the caps button. There's a key command for that too, but I'll do it that way. I think I'm actually gonna make it smaller than my body text. I like personally a folio that doesn't call too much attention to itself. It's there when you want it, and but not when you don't need it. And let's put it in a different font. And in the interest of branding, I'm going to make the name of the magazine bolder. I think a medium bold, actually, or medium italic. I think I'll try that. And then I'm going to add a special character. And so this is new. We're going to go down to type, and we're going to say insert special character, and there's a lot of these. So if you ever have trouble finding the key command for like a bullet, which is just a little black dot, or you don't remember how to set a hyphen or a dash, which can be done from the keyboard, there's a lot of characters here. But in this case, we're going to go to markers, and I'm going to select current page number. I'm going to add a space. And why does it say an A? Because we're on the A master. And I'm going to make that black and not italic. And that's just reflecting that we are on the master. And do I have an extra return in there? I don't think so. It looks like it's not quite even. So I'm just going to take that to be something a little bit funky about the program. Oh, I know why it is. It's because this is based on my body copy. And my body copy happens to be aligned to my baseline grid. So there's usually, if my menu is big enough, there'd be a line there to get rid of it. But let us no, I'm not going to be able to access that, so we'll just have to live with that for now. So I am going to just move. Oh, that's not going to help because it's just going to pop it up to the next one. And anyone who wants more information, I usually don't talk about aligning to grid unless a student gets annoyed that their type is not lining up across their page. Some people like all their lines and across the columns to line up. I like that too. And I can show you that feature, or you can Google it on your own. So I'm going to make this text flush right. And I am also going to copy the number out of it. And it's still A because we're still on the A master. Just put it there. And I think I'm going to move the June. And there are a lot of different ways to handle folios. Some people do them in a fairly fussy way. Some people do them less fussy. Some people would put just the number by itself on the side. Some people, instead of saying my magazine, they'd say mymagazine.com, just to remind people where the URL is. Those are all things that could be done. The folios are often not symmetrical, or have the same content, but sometimes they do. So now that we've put this on the master page, we can go back to our document, and we can see that these numbers are present on all the pages because they're on the master, and they are reflecting the page number in the document. I have a 5-page document, and this is the next to last page, and that's the last page. And if I continue to add pages, they would count up automatically. My assumption is that most people will build their documents in separate templates, and then we will put them together in the end using the book feature, which I will demonstrate closer to the end of the semester. And page numbering works for the book feature as well. So when you thread all your separate documents together, they will have numbers that will reflect their actual place in the book. And if you move something around in a book, if you decide, oh, I want this article to go before that article, it will automatically renumber to reflect that. So we now have one master, and it has a series of pages. And ultimately, I'm going to get rid of those pages, but I want to do a couple of things first. One is everyone in this class is required to have at least 2 masters. And what I'm going to do to create my second master is I'm just going to say duplicate master spread A. And you can get another master, and it will just name it B. And if we click on that, zoom in on that page number, it has a B reflective of the fact that that's where we are. I'm just going to Command 0 to fit it all back in. And everyone has to have at least 2 masters because they're going to need one with a relatively high bar at the top that they'll use for features, and they'll need one with a relatively low bar at the top that they'll use for their brief section. And the reason for that higher space at the top is just to accommodate signage. Maybe this by itself is big enough, maybe it isn't. But I'm going to go and change this. I'm going to say, go to Layout, Margins and Columns. Again, making sure I have my master page selected. And I am going to make that top margin, I would say about a pica. And you can work in inches if you want. I personally think picas are more accurate. And I will just say, I think a little bit more. Okay, so we have that higher margin. I could also give it a different name if I wanted to call this my brief section, or FOB for front of book. I could do that. And if you have a lot of masters, and I inherited a lot of master pages and actually had to make a few others because they didn't do as much as I thought they should at my current publication, you can give it a name, and that can save you some time. I like giving my master's name. And let's also go back to Layout, Margins, and Columns. And at this point, you could give it also more columns. and you can change the gutter. I usually keep my gutters pretty consistent. And you can have as many of these. You can keep duplicating them as much as you want. And the nice thing about doing it after the page number is the page number is going to carry over because it was based on the A master. It has the same folios and the same features, but I could give it another little bit of signage here. If I know that I'm going to use this master just for this page, let's just call this up front. And let's put that in just the verb black again, make it a little bit bigger. And maybe I'll just make it, I could just nudge it over. And then I could do the same thing. I can say, I'll just use the key command to get the text frames command option. That's Command B, and I am going to just center that box. And that is probably a little bit big. I'll take that down just a hair. So you don't have to put that on your master page, and there are times when it's desirable, times when it's not desirable, but it is also an option. And then we return to our regular pages, and we pull our master down, or fob master down, and we can see that we now have a set of decisions that reflect this. So I hope you see that you have you've basically created a tool for making design and production easier to you. Now I'm going to do one other thing before I turn this into a template. Is I am going to make a few child styles of my main master, and I'm also going to make a character level style. So one of the things you can do is I am just going to, you make a character level style essentially the same exact way as you make a paragraph style as demonstrated in my other movie. So let's call this verb black again. And I tend to mix, if I have to emphasize something inside the text, I tend to go for a sans serif. And the reason for that is if we just make this Miller text bold, it just barely pops out of there compared to the sans. So, and I can even zoom in on that. So that's bold, but it's just not much of a contrast. Whereas if you're trying to help a reader actually scan this text and find the things that you're emphasizing, you see that in gossip columns a lot. A politician or a celebrity's name will be bold, and it'll usually be in a higher contrast than just this to help the reader do what the type is designed to do, which is to get to find that piece. If they see Celebrity 1 and they say, oh, this is boring, and then they want to skip to Celebrity 2, this just helps them do a better job finding it. And I brought this text in from somewhere else, and I brought some character styles in with it, but it doesn't look like this one. So I'm just going to say new character style, and I'm just going to call this bolds. And all this does is you can build a lot into a character style sheet as well, but all this does is change the font and change it to black. And I have found that the less there is here, the more valuable a character level style sheet can be, because with just these two things, it doesn't even matter what the base style is. I can apply that style to anything I choose to apply it to. It's not dependent on anything else. I could give a character style leading. I could give it a bunch of other stuff. But as noted earlier, there are fewer things that you can do with character styles than you can with paragraph styles. So let's say okay, and I think I'm also going to make a paragraph style based on this, just so help you understand the difference. And I'm going to say, I think I'm going to base it on no style. And I'm just going to call this bold body, which I would never actually do in real life, I would never set text that bold in small sizes and long running amounts, but we'll make it for the sake of argument. So the big difference between a character style and a paragraph style is if I apply the paragraph style to it, that whole paragraph just changes. And all of it, except for this little bit, because there's something a little bit fancy happening underneath the surface there that is controlling that CEO and forcing it into the small caps. But all of it except for that, and if we have one with no small caps, no acronyms, bold body, that all turns bold. So that's why you can't use a character style for something like this. So we just restored it, and we can clear the overrides. And that takes it all back down to its base. Now, when we switch over to the character style, I can now, we have a famous name right here. So I could take that and I can just put it in that style I just defined. And I could do that. As character style can apply to part of a paragraph. It doesn't have to apply to the whole thing. And that's where they are really useful, is they can be quick to apply to part of a paragraph for emphasis or anything like that. Now I also want, I think for my template, a couple of a couple descendant styles of this. So I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to do a couple of these. So for the first one, I'm just going to make it a body with no indent. So I'm just going to take that down to 0. And I'm going to say paragraph style, new. I'm going to make sure apply style to the selection is chosen. And I'll just call this body no indent. Okay, and this is now, we see, because it's based on body copy, we see body copy, and the only thing we've done to it is the change. Body copy plus first indent equals 0. So it's a very simple change. I'm going to make a couple of fancier changes now, and I'm going to use my no indent style as a starting point. So I'm going to say, and this is something I can't do visually, I have to do it through the dialog box. So I'm going to say new paragraph style, and I'm going to go down to drop caps and nested styles, and I'm going to have a new line nested style that's all the way down here at the bottom. And then I have to define what that style is, and it has to be a character level style. So it could be this bolds I just created. Let's preview that. And there it is, all in the bolds. Or it could be one of the ones that came along for the ride with this document, like the Miller small caps, and changes to that. And this could give you like a little bit more serious feeling opening. You see sort of high-end magazines do that, but I think I'm going to keep my nested style as the bolds. And I encourage you to play around with this. A nested style doesn't have to go the whole first line. It could go for the first 3 words. It could go for the first word or the first number. It could be a way of building a contrasting style into your paragraph. And so I'm going to name this bold lead-in, or maybe just bold lead. And there are all kinds of ways to build one style into another. One is with nested styles, and another is with grep. Grep is a little bit complex to get a handle on, but can be a real-time saving thing. I usually demonstrate that in my advanced type class, some basics of grep. So let's just do that one more time. Bold lead. I think body no indent is my starting point, and I think I'm going to go back to where we were. Style, new paragraph style, And I'm going to go down to drop caps and nested styles where we were before. This time I'm just going to make a 3-line, 1-character drop cap, and I think I will also apply the bolds to that. And so you can get that kind of look. And this is all repeatable. So let's just, I forgot to name it, but there it is. And if you change your base style, I demonstrated that before, all the rest of them will change and match. But hopefully your body style is established and ready to go by this point in the semester. So basically, now that I've done this, and there are a lot of other things I could do, but the fact of the matter is it's just overwhelming, everything you can do in InDesign. And, there will be things I'm teaching you the last week of the semester, last couple of weeks of the semester, and you'll say, that would have been really useful back then. And I will say, yeah, it would have been really useful. But the trouble is that, it's just too much. You just can't take too much of this stuff in at once. We have our 2 masters. That's your minimum number of masters. You can have more if you want. But I want to get this ready for start as a production document. So I'm going to delete these pages. But I still have all the styles I made and all the styles I have. And then I'm going to save this. I think I could just save as a InDesign template. And I think I'll add that to my desktop for easy finding. Let's call this MyMagTem, because if we misplace it, we want to be able to search for it. And I'm just going to save it there to my desktop. And this next step is crucial, because if you just start to work on this now, to start to build a page, it will save as my template. So first you have to close it, and then you can open it again. And I'm just going to go to desktop and click open. Bring that back in. And now it opens as an untitled document, but it has my character styles and my paragraph styles, and I'm ready to start building pages.